everyone, Karen Roby and Ed Bott here for ZDNet. And we're talking today about alternatives to desktop PC. And Ed, first of all, good to be with you.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. This is a thing that many people are still pondering whether or not they want their PC or want to move on to something different. But I understand you have a friend in LA who was looking to do just this, and you helped walk him through this.
Right. So I get an email from my friend Bob in LA, and he has an old desktop PC. It's been performing reliably for him, but I went through the specs with him and realized this PC is 14 years old. Uh, I know,
Wow.
2007 model, and he was saying, should I upgrade it? Should I replace it? And I said, you shouldn't upgrade it. You can't upgrade it.
Right.
They don't make parts for 2007 PCs anymore. So it's time to upgrade it. So he had found, this is a big desktop tower, the kind that sits underneath your desk. And he had found, a very modern 2021 model Dell desktop tower. And he asked me what I thought of it. And I said, well, I've got three questions that I want to ask you before I answer that question. Okay. So I said, first, are you sure you want another desktop tower? Because that was, a pretty good choice back in the first decade after the turn of the century. It was one of the big options, and laptops were a lot more expensive. But there's different options today, and a lot of the advantages that you had in those days don't exist anymore. So he thought about that a little bit and said that no, he was doing that mainly out of force of habit. And it would be easy just to unplug everything from the old tower, plug it into a new one, and then get right to work. And I said, okay, fine. I said, how big is your workspace? And he said he's got a pretty good size desktop there, but it's a little cramped for space. So he'd like to, so if he could find something smaller, that would be a really nice touch. I said, okay, that's fine. He still wants that full-size monitor, full-size keyboard, full-size mouse, because it's not necessarily comfortable to be working on a cramped laptop with a 13 or 14-inch screen all the time. You want that real estate to work with. And finally, I asked him, what kind of expansion capabilities do you really need? And that's the question that that is sort of the make or break question. Now, a lot of people who are gamers or who are graphics professionals, they need that big storage, and they need a high-powered discrete graphics card that fits in a slot in the PC. People like those, they might still need a tower PC. But these days, in terms of expandability, virtually everything that you're going to add to your PC, you're going to plug into a USB port anyway. Or an HDMI port for your monitor. There's very little that you're going to actually take the cover off your PC and put into a slot anymore. Thought about that. We took an inventory of all the expansion peripherals that he has, and sure enough, he doesn't really need a desktop after all. But he also doesn't want to be stuck with just a laptop.
Yeah, and that's just it, Ed, is that I think for so many people that would be their situation. They're kind of an in between, they don't want to go down to that smaller laptop, but they're may not have the room for the bigger PC.
Well, and so if you go to Costco
Mhm.
or Walmart or Best Buy, you look at what's available for retail buyers, and pretty much all they've got is laptops and tower PCs. But if you know where to look, there are some other options. And so I came up with 4 options that are worth considering. The first is the all-in-one PC. Now, you will find a few of these in the big box stores. And the idea here is, these are things like the iMac Pro. All the big PC OEMs have them as well. But basically, the idea here is you've got your PC, your desktop PC isn't visible at all because all of its pieces are embedded right in the cabinet with your monitor there. And if you have a wireless keyboard and a wireless mouse, there's basically only one thing you have to plug in, the power cord, and then everything else just works, and it's very neat. And if you've got that sort of, Marie Kondo, attitude to declutter everything, this is a really good choice. A couple of downsides to it are that they tend to be more expensive, and they have a disadvantage that makes some people a little bit squeamish, which is that, all the pieces are in one cabinet. If something goes wrong with the monitor, well, you've just lost your PC too. And if something goes wrong with your PC, well, you've just lost your monitor too. So, they're a good option for some people, and they're especially good for, like, living in Santa Fe as I do, where we have lots of art galleries. They're great in environments like that, where you want your PC, you want a big PC, you want it to be, it's on a desktop where everyone can see it, but you want it to look very cool and sleek and well designed. But I don't think it's a good choice for most work from home people. It's a little too expensive, a little too design centric. So the second option is one that we've talked about several times here, and that's, you take that laptop, but you add a docking station to it, and then you can close the PC, you can close the laptop, and just pretend that it's an extremely flat tower. It doesn't have a lot of height at all.
Right.
Uh, and you could plug your monitor directly into the HDMI port. You can use a wireless keyboard and mouse with it, and then when just unplug the power, unplug the monitor, and you've got a laptop that you can take in the other room or down to a coffee shop or whatever. But I find that it works better if you really want that desktop expandability, to add something like a docking station to it, because then you've got a single cable, USB Type-C typically. You plug that in there, and then it connects to all of your exterior components, including external hard drives and scanners and multiple monitors, if that's what you want. You can have it all. And it sounds like it might be more expensive, but in the reality, if you need a laptop anyway, and you want a desktop, you're already in the situation where you got to buy two PCs. Well, why not just buy one and a docking station that just costs, at most $200 for a pretty good one, and then you've got the best of both worlds.
Right.
So that's a good option there. Now, in addition to that, the advantages that you get there are, your laptop screen becomes a second monitor if you want. You can use both screens at the same time. I keep Slack running over here on my laptop so I can see when my editor is yelling at me wanting to know when this next piece is going to be ready for him, and I can also use the webcam that's in it. Or I can use the fingerprint reader that's in it to log on and off. So you get a couple advantages there that you don't get with a desktop, because with the desktop, you have to have that external webcam, right? But then the third option is, if someone says, no, I'd rather have something a little more traditional, something that's dedicated to that desktop, doesn't move, doesn't have a lot of cables coming in and out of it. And so for that, there's an option called a small form factor PC. Now, basically what this is, you could say, honey, I shrunk the tower. This is, you take the big tower, it still has the same size motherboard in it. It still has slots in it, but instead of being full size slots, they're what's called low profile slots. So, it's still a tower, but it's small. It's a couple inches shorter. It's an inch or two, maybe sometimes less deep, and it's dramatically thinner. And the real advantage of that is that instead of having to hide it underneath your desktop, you can actually just set it right on your desktop if you've got the room. It sits up there. It's usually about the same height as your monitor, or you can turn it on its side. Most of these are designed to go on their side, so they're a nice little thing, and you could set something on top of it. You have a desktop scanner, you can put that on top of there. But it has all of the internals that a tower PC has, as long as you can find the low profile parts for it, and all of those ports on there without having to worry about a docking station or anything like that. But it just takes up a lot less room. And the thing about these is you won't find them in most retail outlets. You have to go online, and you look on the business side of the OEM's websites. So Dell Business, Lenovo Business, HP Business, and you look for these SFF, small form factor PCs, and you'll find lots and lots of choices. And you don't have to be a business to buy one. Anyone, they'll sell them to anybody one at a time if you want. But they're a really interesting alternative to a big traditional tower. And then finally, there's what they call the micro form factor. And these are, technically they're a subset of the small form factor, but they're really small. The original one is the Mac Mini, right, which is about 7.5 inches square and a little less than 2 inches tall. They're down to about 1.4 inches tall now. They were designed originally to be like, they're really good for home theaters. But the Windows PC world, ever since 2013, these have been around for about 8 years now. The Windows PC world has had them as well, with something that Intel created called the Next Unit of Computing, or the NUC, NUC. If you're going to be a knucklehead, you can buy one of these things, but they're tiny. The NUC devices are about 4.5 inches square, 1.5 inches tall. You can set them on your desktop, and I mean, you won't even notice that they're there. But they've got all these ports in the back of them. They've got a full PC inside with solid state storage and all the memory that you could want. There's some models that I was looking at earlier this week that are, the equivalent of a very, very powerful desktop PC, graphics workstation even. And some of these you can actually mount to the back of a monitor, so that you've basically created your own all-in-one PC. But you can buy these things as kits, where you buy them, they're put together, but then you buy your own storage and your own memory, and you unscrew the top and you plug those things in, and you get exactly what you want, at a pretty reasonable price, and a very small footprint that it takes there. So those are the options that I gave to Bob, and I think he still hasn't made up his mind, but he was really intrigued by the NUC devices. He still may wind up with a traditional tower,
Right.
but the NUC devices have come a long, long, long way since the first ones that I looked at back in 2013. And this is one of those assignments that I think might actually cost me some money, because as I was doing the shopping for this, I looked at this and I said, okay, I might have to break down and buy one of these for my own use.
Oh no, yeah, hazard of the job. Sometimes you do so much research and you just figure you need one for yourself, but
Oh, well, just pull out the credit card and here we go.
why not? It's for research, right? You're helping other people, Ed, and that's what you're doing here with this piece, because we are creatures of habit, and I think it was a big move for a lot of people that did go away from that PC. We're all really tied to what we know and what we're comfortable with. So it is good to have options, and we appreciate you breaking them down for us.
You're very welcome.
All right. Well, for much more, of course, on Ed's piece here, you can find that on ZDNet and much more there. We're glad that you were with us here today. Thanks so much for watching.